Good afternoon, Philadelphia, and welcome back to the Conservative Voice on WWDB AM 860 in Philadelphia. This is your host, Gary Heasley, and I'm in the studio with Ada Nestor once again. Ada, welcome.
Hello, happy Friday.
And happy Friday to you. And, somebody called me this morning and said they expressed the consternation at the effort of trying to keep up with all the things that are happening. Every day is a watershed day. Mm-hmm. Every day is a milestone. So we're going to move as fast as we can to get through a few things. We're going to hit some things here in the first half hour that Ada and I will cover, and then we're going to be joined by Chris Pyhota, who is a former FBI special agent, but did a lot more than that as well. He was involved in a lot of science and technology and in forensic labs. He had a wide role at the FBI, so it's going to be interesting to talk to him. And then at 1 o'clock, we're going to have on Mark Mitchell again. And, you know, Mark is, of course, the head pollster at Rasmussen Reports, and he's great because they're always in the market. They're always doing polling, and some of the polling they've done in this last week really helps us get back on track to understanding what is really in the minds of Americans. Because what we're seeing in the media, I think, is really shifting us into believing that the American people are in a place they're not. You know, we start to think that these small groups that are protesting and are always videotaped, very close cropped. All the photos are close cropped. So it looks like big groups, and they're everywhere. And the constant discussion of these things makes you feel like this country's being ripped apart. It really isn't. There is a group of hardcore activists. We'll see them tomorrow. And they are getting a lot of media, and they're extremely loud. But it's not everybody, and it's not 50-50. So we'll get into that with Mark. And then at 1:30, we're going to have Darren Gobb on, and we're going to talk again, as we do, about all things, global, right? Because Darren is just a fantastic geopolitical strategist. So I'm looking forward to each of these because in each of these areas we're seeing really, sort of nation-changing things happening and major media events or major policy events. So to kick it off, though, we were talking about this a moment ago. We need to talk again about voting. You know, November 4th is right around the corner. We are just days away, weeks away from Election Day. And it's an election day that a lot of Americans sit out. Turnout is very low. So small incremental bits of turnout will make a huge difference in the outcome of township races, which are critical if you're watching what's happening with these township taxes going up all the time. Could be some school boards where you get a chance to maybe put someone on a school board who's not a radical lunatic, which is a nice change. That's refreshing, right? County governments are going to be affected. There are a lot of really important roles. And, of course, there's this confusing thing about retention with the judges that are statewide. And it's a Pennsylvania thing I've not seen anywhere else where you don't actually vote for one candidate or the other. You vote to retain the incumbent or not retain the incumbent. And then there's an election later to actually choose who goes in. So what we've got is a Supreme Court, for example, that seems to operate like an extension of the Democrat Party. And, that's just not the way it's supposed to be. They're supposed to be guided by the U.S. Constitution, the state constitution, precedent. There are a lot of things they're supposed to be considering, and the interests of their party really aren't supposed to be top of mind.
I went through and explained that quite a bit in my September 9th article that Broad and Liberty published. Voters will soon get their say on Pennsylvania's Supreme Court. So, I went through and we talked about exactly the rulings that they led over and where they remain silent. It's a very important issue for our state, and it will affect the next 10 years of our life.
And these are 10-year terms.
Yeah.
This isn't 2 or 3 years, the pendulum swings, all that nonsense. These are almost permanent. For many people, these might as well be permanent positions.
And one of these judges, I believe, is 73, and the age limit for serving is 75. So she is running for retention for 2 more years. And if Shapiro wins his election next year against Stacey Garrity, as it's looking right now,
right,
he will get to pick.
That's right. So that's why that's why they're not saying, listen, I'm timing out. I'm just going to have an election. I won't run for retention. They're doing that so the governor then gets to make this election.
And it's wild because I watch a lot of YouTube, instead of terrestrial cable.
Sure.
And the number of ads, including these 3 Supreme Court judges, is insane coming up in between or during videos on YouTube. I thought they weren't allowed to campaign. I thought they weren't, supposed to be out there doing that, but they are.
Oh, they are. Oh,
And
yes,
there's
they are.
signs. There's vote yes signs. I don't see any vote no signs. I believe we've been given by the party one vote no sign for each precinct. It should be in everyone's yards.
Well, I mean, I mean, I don't mean to be crazier here, but you can't really expect much out of a party that worships Scott Pressler.
Good
I mean,
God.
and thinks he's the guru.
Right.
I mean, they're just lost. They don't know what to do, so all they talk about is mail-in ballots.
Yep.
And those of us that have studied mail-in ballots and election process, and there are thousands and thousands of us. Unfortunately, the party listens to none of them.
Yeah.
But we
We're the
understand.
black sheep.
That's right.
The people who have the answers are the black sheep. So you figure that out.
Let's go to the people who know nothing and ask
Yeah.
them what to do. It's preposterous, but it is the way of the party. So what you've got is a focus on pushing mail-in ballots, the most vulnerable way to vote. Now, here's what's happening this year, and this is probably news to some people. But what's happened is that in each local community, and I'm talking like your neighborhood, volunteers working with county governments have gone out and set up these places. They call them precincts. And you could just go there on election day, just a few minutes from your home, and vote. No lines. You fill out a little paper ballot. You slip it into a little machine and watch it disappear into a box below. It may not be perfectly secure, as we know from what we're learning about Venezuela, but it is far more secure than voting by mail. And the convenience of it, you don't have to figure out.
Easy.
Oh, it's so easy.
And you get to see your neighbors. You see your friends. You see your
Yes.
committee people. You have nice little chats about the weather and the sports teams that you enjoy.
Exactly.
Go Birds. So I always enjoy it.
I
It's
actually do too.
fun.
I enjoy going to the precinct.
Yeah.
Now, there's another element of this, though. At each precinct, or most precincts, there'll be someone there who's outside at a table and will answer your questions about things like vote no on retention. They can answer your questions about candidates and what candidates believe in or don't and why you might vote for one or another. So there are people there to help you think through what you haven't yet researched. That's kind of cool, right? And they do it on the spot. You vote on the spot. It all happens in just minutes. And so this idea of this easy vote option, right? It's the easiest possible way to vote. You know that people are lining up in line now to stand at the they're driving all the way to voter services in Westchester, standing in line to get a mail-in ballot to drop into a ballot box, and they call it early voting, even though we don't have early voting.
Right. No, they completely confuse the people who are listening to them, taking their advice, coming over to voter services, waiting in that long line to request an in-person mail-in ballot. That's
Right.
what you're doing. This is not early voting. You are requesting a mail-in ballot, which you then fill out in person, and then you give it to them, and you hope and pray, and you cross your little fingers that they will not lose your ballot or do something with it in the meantime between now and Election Day. Oh, and by the way, we already know, based on the lawsuits that were filed last year for the Senate race,
Sure.
that there is no chain of custody
None.
for these ballots. So you have the Republican Party of Chester County and Pennsylvania convincing actual voters to essentially throw their vote away for a month before Election Day.
And get this, they're not only just voting at voter services, which is horribly inconvenient. You got to wait in line. It's this complicated process. It's terrible. And you don't actually get your vote counted until Election Day anyway.
Right.
They're voting at these things called satellite offices.
Oh, the satellite offices.
Now, when you talk about chain of custody, what no one's telling these voters is that there's absolutely no control.
Yep.
There's no chain of custody control there. There are no process controls. The things that in many counties, not just one county, many counties, that the government employees are doing at these satellite offices are not observed. By the way, there are no poll watchers.
Yep.
So you're going and you're voting at a place where if that person just throws your vote away, you're not going to know.
Nope.
If they vote in your
You
place,
won't
you're not going to know.
after. You'll find out after because you'll go and maybe most people don't know that they can look up and make sure that their vote was counted. They don't know what the vote was.
Or if it was the ballot they filled out.
Right.
Yeah.
But they see their vote got counted maybe.
Right. So the easy vote option is one that I'm a big fan on. Some people call it direct power voting because your power is directly inserted into the system when you vote in person on a paper ballot. And again, you've got help there to make this work. It's just a great thing. So, what we say is vote local. Now, here's a story we got from somebody who wrote in the other day. They said, I mailed a letter to my grandmother in 1987, and it still hasn't arrived. I didn't send it to heaven, so she will never get it now. don't make the mistake I made. Don't vote with mail-in ballots. Vote local. And I thought, okay, that was a touching story, and I think it makes sense.
We're calling it patriotic precinct voting.
Right.
We are going to make this the thing. I don't know why they thought making the mail thing work was going to happen. I think we should do for next year. Honestly, I have a huge plan for next year. We should go to local restaurants and businesses and have them offer discounts or coupons. And if you bring in your I voted sticker on election day, you get a free drink or a free appetizer.
Sure.
There's things we can do to make this work, to make people want to be a part of the process. Bribing them, fine.
Hey,
Whatever
and
works.
Here's the thing. That little stupid I voted sticker, I love those things.
I love
I
them.
love it. I always put it on and wear it and walk around. So when you think about this, some people only buy local eggs because they know what's been done to our eggs, right?
Right.
Some people only buy local beef, which is really smart because
Yeah.
you can really get high quality beef and it's good. Then they go vote with these remote mail-in ballots, standing in line. It's crazy. So I only vote local.
Same.
I vote local. I go to my local precinct. I never wait in line. I say to the nice people, hey, I'm here. This is my name. They give me a thing. I fill it out. I drop it in the box. I watch it disappear. I get my little sticker and off I go.
Listen, I work there all day. You can come meet me in West Goshen if that's where you vote. You can meet me in person. How fun would that be?
Well, I may come down just to say hi.
Yeah, you should.
After
We'll take
I vote.
pictures. It'll be fun.
So it is one of the funnest things you could do is to vote in person, and it's so easy.
It's a party.
So rather than go through the hassle of did I fill out the envelope right? Did I get the name? Is it going to get in there? Is it going to end up in a ditch somewhere? Like, remember when the post office was throwing them all in a ditch?
Yeah.
Is it going to end up in a ditch because it looks like a Republican ballot? Or they may not like the way I voted at my local satellite office, so they might throw it away. All that goes away when you vote in person.
Can we just reiterate real quick for our listeners, because I do think it's important to remind them what it actually takes to vote in person after you request a mail-in ballot. Because we have the party and the Scott Presslers of the world telling everyone to request a mail-in ballot, in case the state loses power, in case of apocalypse. I don't know. Lots of different things have been fear motivated onto our supporters, our right-leaning people. They don't understand that you need to bring all of that mail with you to cancel your ballot and vote in person.
You're talking about this craziness.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Emergency backup
The emergency
ballot.
backup ballot. That's what it is.
This is lunacy.
Which is, again, guys, just a mail-in ballot. So why would conservatives use confusing and different language for the same thing? We have early voting, mail-in ballot. We have the emergency ballot. It's a mail-in ballot. All of these things, they just change the language. You know who does that? The left, progressives, change the language when we catch on to them.
Oh, they do. They do that. And here's
we
the
are
other
now
thing.
too, I guess.
In the 2024 cycle, more money was put in by donors and party supporters, let's call it the party, into this mail-in ballot game than anything else.
Yep.
Except McCormick's campaign. That was a well-funded campaign. But there was more money invested in mail-in ballots than was invested in the 2022 race for governor, more than in any race for state rep. So, in fact, here's the weirdness of it, right? This bizarre thing, they've raised millions and millions of dollars while candidates go without funding. You can't get messages out. County offices have no money. And it's going to Pressler and some other folks that are pushing mail-in ballots. So what do you think? You think mail-in ballot use went up in 24?
It did not.
And yet they tell us they won in 24 because of mail-in ballots.
No.
What happened?
Those ads are on YouTube too.
Oh, yeah.
Those ads are on YouTube along with the judges' ads telling us we won by voting by mail
It's
in
a lie.
2024. And how did all of the races other than Trump and McCormick do in 2024? Anyone have an idea on what actually happened? What happened in 2024 to all the down ballots?
Well, you mean the ones that were lost all over the country, like the ones in California that took weeks to settle?
I mean,
and the
even
ones here?
PA, yeah.
So those in Pennsylvania, of course, some of those statewide offices won,
Yep.
which was quite the anomaly. And then you saw just devastation across the big counties where the elections are really determined. Huge county budgets, huge school budgets. All of those went hardcore left.
And so you have the House and the Senate in the state, which, I understand the fun is in national politics. I agree. I also prefer national politics for my enjoyment. But the local politics and the state politics are the ones that severely impact your day-to-day life. They're the ones that we should be paying even more attention to, and they have it upside down, really.
Well, you look at the gun control bills that got stopped in the Senate. Now we only have the Republicans have a 3-seat majority in the Senate. It was 7 or 6 or 7. It's been whittled down to 3, including after this mail-in ballot debacle in Lancaster, where the entire margin of victory for a radical lunatic Democrat, a leftist, was delivered by Republicans voting by mail-in ballot. It's documented. We're not guessing here. The math shows it clearly.
Or they either voted for the Democrat or they mailed in their ballots and those numbers were changed to the Democrat. Like they voted for Republicans and then they replaced their ballots, which is also being done.
Well, and you would think that you could easily prove or disprove that, but the fact of the matter is the government fights any transparency related to elections as hard as they can. We still know folks that are fighting right-to-know requests from 2 years ago.
Yes.
For public documents that right-to-know offices have said, open records offices said it's public documents, and the government fights these things tooth and nail. They do not want these documents out. What do you think we're going to find if we get the evidence?
And let me be clear. One day we're going to get the evidence. We are not backing down and we're not stopping. Like we're going to continue at this until we prove it, solidify it, and then it never happens again.
Right.
Why do you think we're seeing all of this stuff we're seeing? Because they weren't prosecuted 5 years ago during the first term.
That's right.
Because they're doing it again because they got away with it the first time.
Well, and because they're able to hide it because they just fight right-to-know requests and use huge amounts of government money. Then they tell us they got to raise taxes. Here's an idea. Why don't you stop fighting the citizens and just follow the law?
Honestly, I think that Felice had pulled some numbers on lawsuits, like how much Chester County commissioners have spent fighting right-to-know requests for voter services. They just raised our taxes. What was it, 12.7, 13% in Chester County?
They just have to spend. They will not stop.
You know, honestly, I think it's just the cover-up. You know, they always say the cover-up is worse than the crime. I always heard that said over the years, right? But I never quite understood it. I didn't get, I guess I'd never been so close to crime to be able to see it in front of me. But you have this, coordinated effort across the state of Pennsylvania and in other states to not release this data, like the cast vote records, non-identifying, wouldn't identify any of the voters, and yet we can't get the cast vote records. Meanwhile, courts across the country have ruled cast vote records are appropriate public records. So that's what we're actually fighting for still in Pennsylvania. And I believe it was the Commonwealth Court that turned around and said, yeah, those are public records. You need to go back to but what they do is they send you back down to lower court, and the lower court's the one that aired in the first place. So it's a game they play.
It is a game they play. But then coming back to the comment a few minutes ago, $10 million were put into this mail-in ballot effort in 2024. And use of mail-in ballots by Democrats collapsed by more than 700,000. Fewer Republicans voted by mail. It went down despite millions spent. And that's the year that Trump wins. And then they turn around and say, well, he won because of mail-in ballots, which is a lie.
I actually think we'll be able to counter that this year effectively after we get the numbers for the November election.
Again, we'll counter it again.
Right. Well, that's what it is. We just have to consistently do it every single year now. This is all we do is look at numbers to try and figure out what's going on.
Right.
I think there's been an increase, actually, this year in mail-in ballot requests because, again, the party is pushing it.
This is insanity.
Wholehearted.
Just crazy.
So I will look forward to seeing what happens this year in all of these races when they pushed more mail-in ballots into people's hands.
You won't convince the party not to do this. They wouldn't have created them with Act 77 if they didn't want to centralize elections. The way it has been done in Oregon, Washington, Colorado, we talk about this all the time. You look at all these states run by radicals. Mail-in ballots are a critical part of it. That's why they've been banned in France, banned in other parts of Europe. That's why Jimmy Carter and the other guy came out and said, hey, we've looked at this the world over. Don't use mail-in ballots.
All of the Western world, I think. I think there's very few countries that do mail-in ballots in the Western world because of this reason. Oh.
Yeah, so hopefully we will someday get off of this, but I don't know. I don't know how it's going to happen because the parties and look, the people making money on this are making a lot of money.
So much. Look at the millions Pressler made.
That Pressler group got $7 million in 24. They're getting millions more this year, I think. I don't know exactly what the number is yet, but I think it's a few $1 million.
And listen, I don't know who needs to hear it to understand how things work, but you follow the money. All of the financial reports are available publicly. You can look them up yourself. You can research them. You can find out where this money's going. And where did millions of dollars from Pressler's PAC go? It went to a ski resort, private ski lodge in Vermont.
No kidding.
For a company that doesn't exist, that has no employees, that has a basic website that you can log into. So where's the money going?
Where is the money going?
It is not going to the candidates. You know how we know that? Because we talk to the candidates and we know the candidates and we know they're not getting money from the party or from the state.
That's right.
So where's the money going? It's going to a ski lodge in Vermont.
Imagine that. You've got your candidates running around doing bake sales and tomahawk throws to try to raise a couple of bucks, begging their friends and neighbors. Millions of dollars flowing into this mail-in ballot scam.
And here you have Scott Pressler, who just follows where the excitement is, right? And you have this race in New Jersey with Sherelle, I think is her name, and she lied about her military service. And so there's all this drama. And where does Scott head off to? Right to New Jersey. All of a sudden, we're all getting text messages to send Scott Pressler money so he can help flip New Jersey.
You realize people still think that he got this 180,000 Amish to vote. They still think that he flipped counties. They still think that he registered 50,000 people. It's shocking how these stories stick. And I guess Laura Trump's part of it because she doesn't know anything. She just keeps pumping this out. How would she know? She's just getting it from him.
Honestly, I think we would see him in New Jersey or in Virginia right now if he had not already burned those bridges in New Jersey or in Virginia.
In Virginia, right.
And so we're seeing him in New Jersey because that's where all the excitement is right now. And the reason he's not in Brooklyn is because our friend Brandon is actually working hard.
Oh, he's working hard against Mamdani.
Yeah.
But, it's just the weirdest thing, the way this sort of swirls around and people never stop to ask a question. Gee, did the Amish really need to hear from this guy they've never met before? This sort of unique character swirls into town and suddenly they're all out voting in numbers that are 3 times the level of the population of Lancaster County.
Right.
And then when you look at the voting outcomes, there was no increase in Amish voting.
Nope.
It is just ridiculous. But for whatever reason, our population is gullible as all get out. I mean, they just don't look at the facts. They listen to whatever story hits them on social media or maybe on NPR, and they just follow like children following the Pied Piper.
People get really offended by the use of the phrase useful idiots.
Oh, now that's not kind.
I know, it's really, really mean. However, it is the useful idiots on both sides, on all sides, in society who allow for societal collapse.
You're right, but some of the folks that are involved in this know exactly what.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not talking about
it without the useful idiots.
But the people behind, there are people, the people who help create these election systems that are so easily manipulated. They know exactly what they're doing, and they know exactly what they're doing with Pressler.
Well, that's why Scott Pressler makes no effort to work with anyone in the election integrity movement across the entire country. What does he do with every single one of us? He blocks us on social media.
Well, he can't. Because he can't answer any questions.
He doesn't.
But look, we
ran wrong on election integrity.
It's really
as
important
usual.
that people vote on Tuesday. You got to get out there on November 4 and vote. We've got to see that happen. We need to turn these elections around. We need to save these townships, save these school boards. It's time. So please get off the couch, get down to your precinct, and cast a ballot on Tuesday, November 4. Now, 17. It's 17 days of government shutdown. How is your life going?
Oh, man, I'm enjoying every minute. They didn't take us seriously when we said we wanted smaller government, and they surely didn't take us seriously when we said we need to get rid of a whole lot of federal employees making 6 figures.
No,
and
they didn't.
Get back to basics.
And when you look at what's going on in the departments, I mean, you've got the Department of, EPA, let's say, 85% of their people are not showing up. Now, right now, that just means that there's a lot of bureaucracy not happening, and that's not so bad because the EPA has been kind of a corrupt and terrible force. Remember the $20 billion that Lee Zeldin found hiding in a bank that they pushed out in the last days of the last administration, hoping no one would notice that $20 billion disappeared from the EPA.
In fairness, I think a lot of people have ignored a lot of billions. A lot of zeros over the years have been ignored.
It's trillions. So now you've got, them out. You've got like 90% of the Department of Education, so there are no dear colleague letters going out. That probably helps schools perform better. There are some things that a teacher was telling me the other day that she thinks Department of Education does for certain students with certain disabilities that are really helpful. Okay, well, maybe that continues. I don't know. I'm not sure why that's not being done at the state level. But there really is no function at the Department of Education that shouldn't be done at the state level. I don't know, Pell Grants maybe. I don't know. We could ask the question. But it's a huge organization, $85 billion a year. They do double that in non-funded mandates. And now they're just sitting home. Now, they'll get paid, right? And here's the other secret about the Department of Education. Do you know what the median income is at the Department of Education?
I'm guessing six figures again.
144,000. It's
That's
209% of the median income for the country.
Meanwhile, our kids can't get educated.
We got 34% performance rates in the Philadelphia schools,
Yep.
our proficiency rates on English language. And the people at the Department of Education who have presided over this decline in performance are making twice what the average American makes.
Yeah.
And just in the federal government as a whole, median income is 30 to 40% more than what the average is in the country, the median income for the country.
Yep.
So these are very well paid. Now, the problem is in the economy, you've got 2.5 million consumers that are sitting on the sidelines right now. Well, we're going to have to work through that. There's going to be some pain. The good news is that while it might be 900,000 or so that are furloughed, some of them are going to be taken out in a reduction in force because clearly the population is too big. We have $2 trillion deficits. We can't afford them.
And welcome to the real world. Sometimes there are layoffs and you have to brush out your resume and spruce it up a bit, and then you have to go out and find another job. You know how many times I've been laid off over my adult life? The housing crisis, I lost a job. I mean, let's be real. That's a reality for everyone, and the market should determine it.
Well, that's right. But now, for reasons unknowable, in our country, it's become sacrosanct that a government employee can't be laid off. No matter if they're sitting, some of them didn't go to the office for 5 years. I'm not talking about air traffic controllers
No,
here.
I know.
Right now, those guys, when you think about the folks that didn't get their paycheck on the 15th, they're counting on it. They're looking for their mortgage to get paid. They've got credit card bills. I mean, that's troubling for these folks, and I sympathize with them, but I don't sympathize less when that happens to people in the private sector. It's not like they have special protection, and somebody working for Company X that has a bad year and fires 30,000 people. I don't feel bad for them. So it's time that the $2 trillion deficit be addressed, and let's be crystal clear: you are not going to be able to address inflation until you stop the printing.
Yep.
There are two big factors that have begun to affect inflation. One is the regulatory burden, and between EPA and some other agencies, they're now looking at cutting out $4 trillion of regulatory expense. Think about that. If you hire an industrial employee, they carry something like $50,000 per employee of regulatory burden. So how do you start a new business? You don't, right? So we've got to stop the printing. We've got to cut the costs. And to be, again, clear, the Republican proposal does not reduce spending. The Democrat proposal calls for another $1.5 trillion over 10 years in additional spending, driving the deficits even higher, driving inflation even higher. Listen, we can have the argument over whether the money should be spent here or there, but we can't have the argument over whether or not money should continue to be printed that doesn't exist. You can't print fake money and expect Joe Main Street to survive. And that's what's happening is you got people on fixed incomes. The incomes are not keeping up with the actual inflation rate. You've got wage earners who are not having their wages keep up with the inflation rate. So the American people are being impoverished by the inflation. It is purely by printing this money, it's taking wealth away from the average American and shifting it over to friends and family of government.
Yep.
And people that are ideologically aligned. We now know that these NGOs were funded with federal money. Right?
They were throwing that money over in bundles off the side of a sinking ship as they were heading out the door in January 2025.
That's right. And remember as well, this Affordable Care Act did not make health care affordable. So one of the fights here...
What?
Yeah, it turns out.
It's so weird. They name these things the opposite of what they do.
Yet another bill that has a name that's completely nonsense. So...
I remember what that did to my family. It has made life very difficult.
Oh, it's been terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, people can't afford it.
Yep.
Now, what's being argued over is whether or not the federal government should continue to provide tax credits to insurance companies to subsidize the policies they're being asked to give to families. So I have pregnancy coverage. Now, I understand clearly there are two genders. There is zero chance of me getting pregnant.
Right. Right.
So, it is.
Why do we need to continue to subsidize this program? Why? Because it doesn't work. Because it never worked. Because it was always meant to be some kind of communist insurance for all utopia that never actually worked.
And whatever benefit it provided, it certainly wasn't affordability because right now, if you look at spending, we're spending on average $14,500 per person in this country for health care. That is twice the amount being spent by other developed nations.
Yep.
We're spending 2 times. Now, you think they don't have good health care? I mean, I know in England there are problems because it's all socialized, right? But if you look across the developed world, you'll find great services, high tech, people trained in U.S. Schools. You're going to find good health care that's available. But this thing just started circulating money through things like pharmacy benefit managers, which add no value,
Now,
provide
other
no
than
service.
interfering with prescriptions.
It's just a way for people to spend time fighting with some other person on a phone. So,
But then you look at Canada, who has socialized medicine to a degree, and they can't get MRIs or CTs. They'll offer you assisted suicide before they set you up with an appointment for an oncology appointment.
yeah, you can get them someday, a few years from now, after you're already dead.
Yeah, after they kill you.
Right. It's crazy. So Obamacare mandates unaffordable plans. The government sends these credit checks to the insurance companies to subsidize those plans because they don't believe the people will pay for them. Then these credits are pocketed by the insurers. We never see that money.
Yeah.
We don't even know that's being spent, right? And then they have enrollees that make no claims. 25% of the money spent in our healthcare system is spent for unnecessary procedures. We have a serious healthcare problem. Part of it is the Affordable Care Act. Part of it is the regulatory regime around healthcare. Part of it is the fact that about half of our healthcare dollars are spent by the federal government, which is just insane. And so we've got to get this fixed. But fixing it does not include continuing the Unaffordable Care Act, the Obamacare nightmare.